Alright guys, we're back for Contender Series. This is week 9. I know I didn't have videos for week 7 or week 8, but I did post the predictions on the community tab of the channel. But we're back. I want to make sure I get these 2 weeks done, so at least we have almost a video for every single week of the Contender Series. But we're going to come into week 9 and hopefully go undefeated. We're going to try our best. First up, for week 9, we've got a battle that takes place in the heavyweight division between Pergentino, I believe. Rafael Pergentino taking on Luke Fernandez. I'm going to tell you guys this real quick. It's very hard to find tape on Rafael. I mean, I couldn't really find anything. I found one fight, and it was pretty fast. It was a quick fight. He just kind of overwhelmed his opponent. Heavy volume on the front foot. Doesn't look like he's in the best shape. But he throws a lot of volume, and, in the heavyweight division, I think volume can be a big weapon. You never know if the other guy you're fighting just has big power, and you can kind of overwhelm him with the volume and cause him to make a mistake in order to set up your big shot. Then I think, they could cause some issues. But I just don't really see that happening against Fernandez. Fernandez is good in close. He's got in close, tight pocket boxing, uppercuts, hooks, knees, solid takedowns, good wrestling. I mean, he seems like the more well-rounded fighter of the two. Rafael, like I said, decent volume, good forward pressure, a lot of recklessness, but he doesn't really seem to have much of a ground game. And I think if Fernandez can draw Rafael into a brawl, I think he can change levels and take him down. But I also think that he's just a cleaner striker. Like, Fernandez is the cleaner striker to me. So I'm going to go out on a limb. I think, even though it's not going out on a limb, he's a huge favorite. But I think Luke Fernandez wins this one. The easier path to victory would be changing levels, causing Rafael to come forward and then taking him down, beating him up on the ground, and either getting a ground and pound TKO or a sub. But I kind of feel like he's going to want to make a statement. He might get into a brawl. If he gets into a brawl, then I think Pergentino is live. But again, I just don't really think that's going to happen. I think even on the feet, Luke Fernandez is live to get a KO. So if he gets in close and rips shots inside with uppercuts, hooks, rip into the body, knees and elbows over the top in the clinch, I think he can dirty box his way to a victory as well. I'm going to go Luke Fernandez to win via round 1 TKO. I think it could be on the feet. It could be on the ground. I think he's going to hurt him in close in the brawl, cause him to shell up, rip shots to the body, rip uppercuts, hooks, and just, dirty box his way to a first-round TKO. So I'm going to take Luke Fernandez, round 1 TKO. But again, the sub is live because I think he might have an easier path to victory if he gets a takedown and looks to set up some of his grappling. But I think it's going to be a brawl. I think it'll be fun. I think, Pergentino's going to land a couple shots of his own. But at the end of the day, I think the dirty boxing and in-close fight style of Luke Fernandez is going to get him the win here. So give me Luke Fernandez, round 1 TKO. Could be round 2. I don't see it getting to round 3. Up next, we've got a battle in, I believe, the middleweight division? No, welterweight division between Donovan Hedrick coming in 6-0, taking on Luis Felipe Diaz, who comes in 15-5, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, losing via KO to Luis Cotto, which I actually watched that fight, and then losing a decision to Marcin Bandel. So I watched both those fights for Diaz, and, the one thing I can say that's good about him is that he really turns that right hand over. That's really the best thing I can say, is that he has a solid jab, a good one too, and he really turns over that right hand. So if he can keep his opponent at a distance, at bay, then I think he can have some success, because I don't really think Donovan Hedrick has much on the feet. I think he probably has some good power, but for the majority of what he's going to be looking for, I think he's going to be looking to take his opponent down. I think he's going to be looking to beat him up from the top position and look to set up a submission or just ground and pound his way to a victory. And what I will say is, based on the fact that I did watch those 2 losses for Luis Felipe Diaz, I think Hedrick's going to be able to do whatever he wants to him when he gets him on the ground. Like, does he have solid grappling in his own right? Yes. Can he get takedowns? Yes. Does he have good, ground and pound and submission setups from the top? Yeah, I don't think Felipe's bad, but I think he has a hole in the grappling, and I think he's going up against a guy in Hedrick who has very solid takedowns, very solid top control, and once he gets you on the ground, it's very hard for you to get up. Now, do I really think that's going to translate to the UFC? I really don't. I mean, I don't think a lot of these guys on the Contender Series pan out to have super successful UFC careers. But I do think that if Diaz can keep it on the feet, I think he's the better striker. I think that the right hand is live. The 3-2, the 1-2 down the middle, he really turns that hip over for the right hand. If Hedrick is shooting and can't get the takedowns and leaves himself open on the feet, he's going to look uncomfortable, and he's probably going to leave himself open for that big right hand. So, like, if I'm playing Luis Felipe Diaz, if I'm looking at this and saying, oh, you know, I want to take a shot on the near-even fighter, I wouldn't even play the money line. I would just wait for the props to come out and play the KO on Diaz, because I do think that that right hand is going to be there. I don't think he's a great striker. I don't think he has amazing combinations, but he turns that right hand over, turns the hip over, gets on the ball, the foot, and really extends that right hand. And I think that could be something that he could catch Donovan Hedrick with. Sorry, I keep wanting to say Hardwick, like Harry Hardwick, but I think he can catch Donovan with that right hand, and that is what he's going to have to look out for. But based on the fact that I've seen this guy get taken down, based on the fact I've seen this guy give up top position, I've seen this guy get beat up from the top, I've seen him give up submission positions, I've seen him get ground and pounded, I can't pick him. I gotta pick Donovan Hedrick. I can't pick Luis Felipe Diaz when the strength of the opponent in Hedrick is the glaring weakness I've seen from Diaz. And Diaz also throws wild. I mean, if one of those short punches from Hedrick sneaks in, he could rock him on the feet as well. So I think the fighter who has more paths to victory, the fighter who has an easier path to victory, I'm going to say is Donovan Hedrick. But I mean, Hedrick hasn't really been beating anybody that's a great fighter. I mean, he's beating 2-1 Franklin Torres. He's beating 2-2 Daniel Cooper, 1-4 Dominic Stouter, 1-2 William Vandiver, and 0-7 Christopher Lavin. So you look at the opponents for Diaz, he beat a guy who was 2-0, he lost to a guy who was 14-7, not a great record, and lost to another guy who was 20-7, which isn't a bad record at all, beat a guy who's 10-3, and then beat a guy who's 7-5. So based on like competition level, I think the fighter who's fought the better competition is Luis Felipe Diaz, but I just see a glaring hole in his grappling, a glaring hole in his grappling defense, and a glaring hole in an ability to get up, and I think that is the biggest weapon for Hedrick, is to take him down, beat him up, and either ground and pound him or submit him. So I'm going to take Donovan Hedrick. I'm going to take him via round 2 ground and pound TKO. I think he gets on top and just rains down ground and pound until the ref stops it, flattens him out, and gets an impressive win. I would not expect much from this guy in the UFC, but I think he can get the job done here against Diaz. So give me Donovan Hedrick. Give me Hedrick, round 2, ground and pound TKO in this fight. All right, next fight up, we've got a fighter who we actually saw compete on the Ultimate Fighter in Imanol Rodriguez, undefeated at 5-0, taking on Roque Jr., who's coming in at 10-2. Out of the 10 victories for Roque Jr., he has 9 finishes, 2 subs, 7 KOs. On the side of Imanol Rodriguez, who's 5-0, he's looking at a record of, does it even say? It doesn't even post it, but he's got a knockout victory on the Ultimate Fighter, which doesn't really count. You know, he lost to Joseph Morales by split decision. Morales ended up going on to win the entire season of the Ultimate Fighter and win it by submission, which I believe was like a 9-1 or 10-1 outcome. It wasn't expected for Morales to get a sub, but prior to that, he had a knockout at 1 minute and 50 seconds in round 1, a knockout at 4 minutes and 27 seconds of round 1, a rear naked choke in round 1, a TKO in round 2, and a TKO in round 2. So all of his wins, aside from the Ultimate Fighter, including one on the Ultimate Fighter, do come by way of finish. But again, this is a guy that doesn't have too much experience, but from what I've seen on the Ultimate Fighter, I can tell you a couple things. He is going to be wild on the feet. The guy is not the cleanest striker. He's not a technical striker. I wouldn't consider him a technical striker, but he has decent takedown defense. He's not really going to get held down and kept in one position. He can throw up submissions, look for subs of his own, but he's really looking to just bomb you with big shots on the feet. Big left hook, big overhand right, big uppercuts. I mean, everything this guy throws on the feet is thrown with like what we like to call piss and vinegar. This guy's going to come out and he's going to throw big shots, and he's going to look to take your head off your shoulders and send it all the way to the back wall of the UFC Apex. I mean, big left hooks, big right hands, big uppercuts, big 1-2s, ripping shots to the body, solid kicks as well. And I do think the pressure can get to Roque Jr. But what I will say is, if it comes down to who's the more technical striker, if this fight comes down to who can keep it cleaner, who can keep it at distance, who can keep it at range, I think Roque Jr. is definitely live to get the job done here. I don't think that Imanol Rodriguez should be a minus 280, minus 290. I think that line is baked into the fact that he was on the Ultimate Fighter, got a KO, and then lost a split decision to the guy who ended up winning, which does look good. I mean, the guy who he lost to ended up winning the whole show, but I feel like it should be more even. In terms of the line, I also think DC's praise of Imanol Rodriguez plays into the fact of why he's such a big favorite in this fight. I would line it Imanol Rodriguez like minus 190, and I would take Roque Jr. Minus or plus 155, plus 170, like plus 160, plus 170. I mean, honestly, that's what I would put it at. So I do think that the fight is more competitive than the line entails. I think if this fight goes 15 minutes, that it's probably going to be the longer, cleaner striker in Roque Jr. who's going to be winning this fight, like using his jab, fighting behind the jab, throwing a 1-2, check hook, right body kick, 1-2 down the middle, front kicks to the body. Like, this guy can keep it clean. He can keep it at distance. He can keep it at range, and he's probably going to be the fighter winning if the fight stays at a distance. But I just don't think he's going to be able to keep Imanol away from him for long enough to be able to win a decision, and I don't think this fight is going to go to a decision. I think Imanol Rodriguez is maybe going to get hit with a couple shots early. I think the counter knockout is live from Roque Jr. Like, if he walks forward, overextends on a shot and gets countered with a right hand and knocked out, I wouldn't be surprised. If he crashes the distance, comes forward and gets hit with a left hook, I would not be surprised either. But I'm going to tell you that I think eventually the forward pressure and the big power shots are going to get to Roque Jr. I think the body shots of Imanol Rodriguez are going to work. I think he's going to rip big left hooks to the body, big uppercuts to the body, solid knees, elbows over the top in the clinch, and I think eventually a big right hand over the top is going to clip Roque Jr. on the chin, and I think he's going to get a second round knockout here over Roque Jr. So I'm going to take Imanol Rodriguez to just kind of buzzsaw through Roque Jr., but have a little bit of adversity early on, because I think the longer, rangier striker is going to have some success early, but eventually that pressure is going to wear on Jr. He's going to close that distance off, and he's going to bang a big overhand right, and he's going to knock him out. So give me Imanol Rodriguez to win second round knockout over Roque Jr., but if Roque Jr. wins this fight, whether it's a decision or a KO, I wouldn't tell you I'm surprised, because I think he definitely has a shot. Next fight up is in the bantamweight division. You have a battle between Mark Vologdin taking on Adrian Luna Martinetti. This is a pretty interesting fight, and probably one of the more difficult fights to predict on the card. I would say that the better overall grappler is probably Adrian Luna. I feel like he has better ability to control the back, and I have seen Mark Vologdin get his back taken. I've seen him get flattened out. I've seen him get ground and pounded, and then I've seen him give up a submission. So I kind of feel like Adrian Luna is going to have the game plan of playing around on the feet for a little bit and then allowing for Vologdin to overcommit on a shot and then try to duck under, spin around, take his back, and then drag him to the floor and put his hooks in. This guy, Adrian Luna, has pretty good grappling. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that he's much better on the ground, but I also know that, Vologdin is not a bad grappler in his own right. I've seen him get on top. I've seen him land ground and pound. I've seen him go for arm triangles. I've seen him go for submissions. I've seen him defend submissions as well. But I have seen him get his back taken, and I have seen him get submitted. And I feel like that is an area where Adrian Luna could take advantage of him, is by taking his back and getting, the hooks in and then softening him up to go for a submission. With Vologdin, he's probably going to be, number one, the more powerful striker, and number two, just the more active striker overall. He doesn't throw a ton of volume, and neither does Adrian Luna, but I feel like his shots are going to have, number one, the better technique behind them, and number two, I feel like he just has a lot more sting, snap, and power on his shots than Adrian Luna. Luna has decent kicks to the head, decent front kicks to the body. He likes to come up the center with some kicks pretty well, and Mark Vologdin is good at chopping low kicks, moving around. He reminds me a little bit of if you look at the last fighter on the Contender series, Cody Chovanchek, and then you kind of look at Peter Yan. Like I told you, I thought that Chovanchek had a little bit of a stylistic similarity to Petr Yan. I kind of see a similar situation with Vologdin, where it looks like he's not doing much, and then he explodes with a combination. He comes back with a good counter. he slips and comes back with a good counter. The only real advantage I see Adrian Luna having is if he's able to get his grappling going. Because if he's not able to get his grappling going, if he's not able to take his back, if he's not able to flatten him out, if he's not able to look for a submission, I don't think he's going to have too much success over a prolonged period against Mark Vologdin. I think Vologdin is going to have the sharper strikes, the more powerful strikes, and just the overall better accuracy when he's throwing his shots. I think he's going to pinpoint his strikes better, whether it's kicks to the legs, kicks to the body, or just the boxing and the counter boxing by sliding back with the check hook and things like that. But I do worry that Luna could be losing, and then he kind of just walks him into a big shot, which hurts Vologdin, and then allows for Adrian Luna to go for his grappling. That's just the number one thing I can think of when I see a clear advantage is probably the grappling. And if Mark Vologdin was just completely inept on the ground, I would feel much more comfortable taking the underdog in Adrian Luna. But I'm going to be honest, I'm not doing it. I'm going to take Mark Vologdin. It's pretty much an even line now. I mean, it's like minus 108, plus 110, something like that. Minus 130, plus 110. Yeah, I like Vologdin. I just think that he's good enough on the ground to stay safe in a lot of the bad positions. And yes, he can give his back up. Yes, he's been submitted before. But I think on the feet, he's going to have the better counters, the better, I would say, impact with his shots, the more powerful strikes, and he mixes it up with the punches and the kicks. I mean, he can throw wheel kicks, side kicks, front kicks, and everything in between, and his boxing is very good on the front foot and the back foot. I think if he gives up his back, like I said, that's probably going to be Adrian Luna's best path to victory because he does have good back control. He does slide those hooks in very well. He does threaten with submissions, and he can flatten you out. So on the ground, I would give the advantage to Adrian Luna, but I don't think that Mark Vologdin is a terrible fighter off of his back or on the ground. So I'm going to take Mark Vologdin. I'm going to take him to win via a second-round TKO. I think eventually he's going to get to Luna. He's going to be able to stuff the takedowns later on in the fight, and I think he's just going to unload with combinations on the feet, and I think he's going to catch him with one of those check hooks, put him down, and finish him off. So give me Mark Vologdin. I'm going to take him to win via a second-round TKO in this fight. All right, next fight up is the main event. It's in the lightweight division. It's a battle between the 6-1 Lucas Caldas taking on Magomed Zaynukov, Wild Chanko, who comes in at 7-0. All of his wins, when you look at his wins overall, out of those 7 victories, he's got 5 knockouts and 2 decisions. With his opponent, Lucas Caldas, 6-1 overall as a professional. All of his wins come by way of knockout. No wins by decision, no wins by way of submission. His one loss was a DQ, so he was clearly winning and dominating that fight, and then he landed some awkward stomp on his opponent, and it hurt him to the body, and that was it. With this one, guys, I did watch tape on both of them, and I do worry a little bit about the counter ability of Magomed Zaynukov. I think that he might be able to catch Lucas Caldas on an overextension, hurt him and rock him and put him out. And, you never want to go too heavy against a Dagestani or a Chechen fighter. This guy is a training partner of Islam Makhachev. We have seen, I believe, Makhachev's training partner fight on the Contender Series before, and I believe he might have lost to Mauricio Ruffi. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think Gadzi Asulov might have been a training partner of Islam Makhachev or something along those lines. But again, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Lucas Caldas, man, this guy does not have a lot of weapons, but what he does have is a very solid 1-2. I mean, that's pretty much the entirety of his game, is he moves forward, backs up, moves forward, backs up, fakes and feints, jab, fakes and feints, 1-2 down the middle, jab, feint, use the jab as a frame, throw the right hand. And when he hurts you, that's when more variety comes out in his striking. So if he rocks you, then that 1-2, then he'll start to go left hook, rear uppercut, 1-2, rear uppercut, left hook, rib shots to the body. Lucas Caldas is striking. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's actually pretty clean. He rips that left hook to the body very well. He has good shot selection on the feet. He backs up, but he's not the most active in terms of overall volume, and he kind of just spams the 1-2, but it tends to work for him. With Magomed Zaynukov, I watched one of his fights, and he just seems a little bit too reckless and wild for me. And that might play into his hand here and cause him some success if he walks forward and, lands a big elbow, lands a big uppercut when Caldas is trying to come into the range where he can strike, and then he might catch him with a big counter. Sorry, I'm kind of losing over my words here, or I guess you could say talking a little too fast, so let me slow it down. So what I see in this fight is, I think the more reckless fighter is Zaynukov or Zaynukov. Sorry, I think the more reckless fighter is Zaynukov. I think the fighter who's cleaner is Caldas. I think the fighter who's better technically is Caldas. I do think he's going to have an advantage in the grappling, and I think we might see Zaynukov use the wrestling and grappling to his advantage. But I mean, like I said, if you really look at his overall success, I mean, he's 7-0. He's got 5 knockouts and 2 decisions. So he's not really a submission guy. So people might come into this fight and say Zaynukov by sub, Zaynukov by sub, Zaynukov by sub. He's not really a submission guy. I mean, for the most part, he likes to fight on the feet. He likes to throw a lot of volume, get a little reckless. He'll grab you in the single collar clinch, knee you to the body, elbow you, break off, elbow you as you're stepping in. And I just kind of feel like Lucas Caldas is going to cause a big upset here. I think he's cleaner with his shot selection. I feel like he's better on the defensive. Like, I've seen the guy get hurt. I've seen him get rocked. I've seen him get wobbled. And I think Zaynukov could definitely do that. But I just think that jab, the 1-2, the right hand, the way he sets up his shots, I kind of like it a little bit more than what I've seen from Zaynukov. I don't think Zaynukov should be this big of a favorite. I think that he's solid, but I think he's a little bit too reckless. And when I see a guy who's extremely reckless going up against a guy who has solid technique, solid striking, solid shot selection, and, decent defense, I tend to lean towards that, option B. So I'm going to take the underdog. I'm going to take Lucas Caldas. Obviously, he could get drawn into a brawl and get caught with an elbow or get caught with a knee in the clinch and get hit with a big shot and get knocked out. We faded a Dagestani or a fighter against Brian Zurcher, and it didn't work out. But I just think that Lucas Caldas is better than a plus 340. I like his jab. I like his 1-2. I don't like that that's kind of the majority of his game, but I like that when he hurts you with those shots, he starts to open up. And I think that's where he can hurt a guy like Zaynukov, is where he can crack him with a 1-2, cause him to shell up, and then he starts ripping that left hook to the body, right uppercut, left hook to the head, land some elbows, left hook to the body, right uppercut to the head, and just mixing it up when he changes levels. And I think he can hurt his opponent. So I'm going to take the underdog. I'm going to take a shot and take the plus 340 in Lucas Caldas to come out here and win impressively as a big underdog, plus 340. Give me Lucas Caldas via second round knockout. Maybe third round, but man, I like this guy. I think that he's better than the line entails. I think that he might be at a disadvantage in terms of the overall striking variety, but I think the lack of variety will help him against a guy who's a little bit reckless and wild like Magomed Zaynukov. So give me Lucas Caldas. Give me Caldas round 2 TKO for the main event of Week 9 of Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series.